Have you ever wondered what happens when a person stands before the world and claims to be God? Not a prophet, not a holy man, but God in human form. Some were worshipped like deities, others were laughed at, feared, or brutally destroyed. But almost all of them paid a terrifying price for stepping into the divine spotlight. From ancient pharaohs who drowned in their own ego to modern cult leaders who led hundreds to their graves, this is the chilling story of those who dared to claim godhood and faced the consequences. Let's begin where the God complex was born, in the blazing sands of ancient Egypt. For centuries, the pharaohs were not just kings, they were gods on earth. They were believed to be living manifestations of Horus, the sky god, and later the son of Ra, the sun god. But the most infamous of all is the Pharaoh of Exodus, the one who opposed Moses. In both the Bible and the Quran, he is portrayed as a man so blinded by his own supposed divinity that he challenged the very God of creation. He refused to let the enslaved Israelites go, mocked the plagues that ravaged his land, and chased Moses into the Red Sea. According to religious texts, it was there, in that moment of ultimate pride, that Pharaoh drowned as the waters came crashing down. His death wasn't just a political loss, it was the death of a man who thought himself immortal. But Egypt wasn't alone in this divine delusion. The Roman Empire took it a step further. Emperors like Caligula, Nero, and Domitian didn't just accept divine worship, they demanded it. Caligula, in one of history's most infamous moves, attempted to have a statue of himself erected in the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. Nero burned Christians alive to light his gardens while claiming divine inspiration. These men reveled in godhood until Rome decided enough was enough. Caligula was assassinated by his own guards. Nero died alone by suicide, abandoned by the very empire he claimed to rule as a god. The lesson? When you try to become a deity in the world's most powerful empire, you might find your own followers holding the knives. Fast forward to the 20th century, and the world watched as another so-called divine king lost his throne, not by execution but by humiliation. Emperor Hirohito of Japan was believed to be the direct descendant of the sun goddess Amaterasu. For centuries, Japanese emperors were seen as gods in human form. But after Japan's defeat in World War II, General Douglas MacArthur forced Hirohito to publicly renounce his divinity. The God Emperor became just a man. The moment was broadcast to millions, and the collective psyche of a nation shattered. The divine aura faded instantly, replaced by the political reality of surrender. But the modern world didn't kill the God complex, it just moved it underground. In the late 20th century, several men emerged, not as kings or emperors, but as prophets, preachers, and cult leaders, claiming they were more than human, they were the chosen ones, they were divine. One of the most chilling was David Koresh, leader of the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas. Koresh didn't claim to be just a messenger of God, he claimed to be the Lamb of God himself, the final interpreter of the 7 seals from the Book of Revelation. His followers believed him. They stocked weapons, prepared for the end times, and lived in a fortified compound. In 1993, the U.S. government raided the compound. What followed was a 51-day siege that ended in fire, chaos, and death. 76 people perished in the flames, including Koresh. He believed he was chosen, but in the end, fire answered his prophecy, just not the way he expected. Even more terrifying is the story of Jim Jones, the self-proclaimed messiah behind the People's Temple. Charismatic, manipulative, and deeply dangerous, Jones blended Christian rhetoric with socialist ideology. He told his followers he was the reincarnation of Jesus, Buddha, and even Vladimir Lenin. He moved his growing congregation to Guyana, where he built Jonestown, a supposed utopia. But when U.S. officials began investigating him for abuse, Jones panicked. On November 18, 1978, he ordered a mass suicide, forcing over 900 people, including hundreds of children, to drink cyanide-laced Flavor Aid. Jones died among them, a messiah surrounded by corpses. It was the largest single loss of American civilian life in a deliberate act until 9/11. He said he was God, but history called him a madman with a microphone. And then there was Shoko Asahara. In the 1990s, this blind Japanese cult leader formed Aum Shinrikyo, a bizarre fusion of Hinduism, apocalyptic Christianity, and sci-fi mysticism. He claimed to be Christ. He also claimed to be the reincarnation of the Hindu god Shiva. Asahara prophesied that only his followers would survive an upcoming World War III, but his visions of apocalypse weren't just spiritual, they were weaponized. In 1995, his cult released sarin gas in the Tokyo subway, killing 13 and injuring thousands. Asahara was arrested, tried, and executed in 2018. He promised salvation. He delivered terror. Some who were seen as gods didn't even ask for the title. Haile Selassie, Emperor of Ethiopia, was crowned in 1930 and quickly became the messianic figure of the Rastafarian movement. Followers in Jamaica believed he was the second coming of Christ, the Lion of Judah prophesied in the Bible. Selassie himself never claimed divinity. He reportedly denied it multiple times, but the worship didn't stop. After he was overthrown in 1974 and allegedly murdered in secret, the faith didn't die, it spread. Reggae legend Bob Marley helped turn Haile Selassie into a global symbol, but even a messiah can be buried. Selassie's body was found decades later under a palace bathroom, a god silenced. One of the strangest stories comes from 17th century Europe. Sabbatai Zevi, a Jewish mystic from the Ottoman Empire, declared himself the long-awaited Messiah. Tens of thousands of Jews believed him. They sold their homes, abandoned their jobs, prepared for the end of the exile. But when Zevi was arrested by the Sultan and given a choice, convert to Islam or die, he chose Islam. The shock was catastrophic. His followers were devastated. Some even converted with him, forming a strange sect called the Dunmay. Others lost faith entirely. A god who switches religions mid-career? History has rarely seen such a rapid fall from grace. So, what does all of this tell us? It tells us that the line between faith and fanaticism is razor-thin, that charisma, when mixed with theology, can create explosions far more dangerous than any war. And most of all, it shows us that when a man claims to be God, the world doesn't just listen, it reacts, sometimes with worship, sometimes with fire. The stories of these self-proclaimed gods and those who were declared divine against their will are not just relics of the past,